How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host Xander, and welcome to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Today, we're going to be building wealth and relationships. I understand that uh, some people get a little bit sensitive when we start talking about relationships, but you got to understand, you have to realize that in order for you to be financially successful, you have to have a successful network, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get started, make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Make sure that you guys join the membership. TikTok is still dark in the United States, so we're not on TikTok right now, but we are on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. So definitely make sure that you follow us if you are on Twitch and Twitter. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Also hit the like button if you are on Twitch and Twitter. And show us some love. Throw us a little donation and contribution somewhere along the lines. Always remember that we could benefit from the assistance of your contributions when you are donating special things, special likes, special comments, or now they have the YouTube gifts where you can send us like diamonds or rupees or whatever, because they're really starting to go head to head with TikTok. So YouTube is now put in diamonds and rupees. So I definitely encourage you to utilize those in order to show us some support, and the comments that are appropriate that you put up onto the show will definitely be emphasized on the podcast, and we will be able to comment on them appropriately. Likewise, if you are over the age of 18, you can click the link, approve the mic, approve the camera, and we'll bring you up onto the show for in-person real-time engagements. For those of you that are not, you have to remain in the comment section. Everyone else, please enjoy the show. So we're going to go ahead and dive into our topic. And yeah, as I dive into this topic, we're going to be dealing with the challenge of building both wealthy relationships and a winning investment portfolio. And we're doing it from scratch, like we always do, because for those of us who don't already have it, where we just need some guidance as to how to manage it, maintain it, or manipulate it, we still have to understand that there is a way to start. And unlike those walking seminars that'll tell you, yeah, you can do it, you can be there, you just have to find a way. Yeah, that is core garbage. I'm going to tell you the way. This is what you can do. And then you have to go through the intricate details of how you want it done. And that's when you start figuring out the rest of the way. Because until you know which direction you want to go in, you don't know what path you're trying to forge. And without knowing what path you're trying to forge, you're not sure if there's already a forged path in that direction that you can kind of get a head start on, or if you really have to start cutting things down and start moving in a direction that no one else has gone before. Uncharted territory is harder to get through than previously explored areas. And one of the things that we have to understand is that when we're dealing with uncharted territories, we have to take unorthodox approaches. And we're not willing to take unorthodox approaches. We're not willing to achieve the unachievable. Because it's only perceivably unachievable because nobody's done it yet. Doesn't mean that it's not possible. So this is going to be a great topic, and it's going to get to the heart of personal and financial growth. When we talk about building wealth, we often focus on the financial side of things. But the truth is, as I've explained many of times before, our relationships play a massive role in our financial success. Think about it. The people we surround ourselves with, the connections we make, and the relationships we nurture can either accelerate or hinder our progress towards financial freedom. So regularly communicating with your partner or family about financial objectives, including short-term and long-term goals, fosters transparency and helps align your financial strategies. Now, with this, you have those certain relationships, because we talked about this on the show yesterday after the content writer information was displayed. And we talked about how some women believe that they shouldn't have to tell the man what kind of money they've got and how much they're making and what they're contributing to the situation, because a woman should allegedly manage her own money. But when women are in a relationship with a man that they believe that the man should be transparent, the woman should be equally, if not more so, transparent than her expectations. And this means that if you have short-term or long-term financial objections, whether it's spending money on personal luxuries like getting your hair, nails done, and all that jazz, or if you're trying to invest in a new car, buy a house, or pay for your college tuition, or other such things, you have to be transparent with your partner, and likewise with your children, that hey, they want a cell phone or a bike or a go-kart, or they want their first car, that you have to let them know this is how much money we have towards that particular goal. You have to save, we have to put some money away. There's certain quantity of money we'll put up, a certain quantity of money you have to go out and earn with your own little side jobs, and really negotiate the short-term objectives versus the long-term objectives, because the short-term objectives is reaching a certain quantity of capital to go and make the purchase. If this is a financial discussion about saving up to get something, the long-term conversation about that is how are you going to maintain it after you get it? Because if you spend money on it to get it, and then you have to spend money on it to maintain it, and the amount of money that you need to maintain it is more than the amount of money that you have on your person on a day-to-day, month-to-month, week-to-week basis, you are having to figure out a way to have a base level of income that self-sustains the expense you're about to incur. Likewise, when you're in a relationship, for those women that like to go out to the club and go to the lavish 5-star restaurants and be impressed by the man's finances while they manage their own finances and don't spend any of their money on these engagements, we look at the fact that if you're going to be in a positive and healthy relationship, you have to be transparent about the amount of contribution you are going to be putting into the relationship going forward, plus what financial expectations that you have to adhere to versus the income that you bring in. Why is this important? Well, if you're paying your phone bill and I'm paying my phone bill and they're due on separate days, and my paycheck comes in before your paycheck and your bill is due before you get paid, then that makes it now my responsibility to pay your phone bill. Now, does that mean that you, because that's what boyfriends do, but does that mean that you're going to go and pay the boyfriend's phone bill in return? That's yet to be seen. But whoever's got it gets it. It's typically a healthy codependent relationship, is that when a bill comes up, whoever's got it, get it. Now, keep in mind, I would typically encourage my partner to redirect all of the expenses towards the end of the month. And then as we both get it, between the first week of the month and the third week of the month, we get everything that can be done, from the most expensive thing down to the cheapest thing, and make sure that we cover all the bases so that by the time the fourth week of the month happens, there's nothing there that needs to be paid for. Well, speaking of, I got to make a phone call after the show. Either way, we're looking at the fact that if you're not transparent about your financial investments, if you're not transparent about your income levels, then you will be causing a rift in your relationship, because your partner is not capable of volunteering their ability to aid you in your financial struggles, but you're also being defensive towards somebody that is supposed to be an ally, because why are you keeping secrets about your finances while you are spending theirs? That is not a balanced scenario. Shared values is going to be something that is very important. And what we need to have is the understanding where we discuss what wealth means to each other, which actually, when you think about it, now that I got that talking about this card game that I had mentioned to you guys before, the Dating Assassin game, and I have links to that in the Dating Assassins episode, that it explains about, ask questions, like serious questions about your financial goals, your 20-year plan, your lifetime expectations. And it's a very interesting game to play, but it fundamentally puts you in a position where you have to ask yourself, like, where do I want to see myself financially, and what am I willing to do to get there, legally, of course. Now, this shared reality can strengthen relationships and ensure that everyone is on the same page regarding financial decisions. Now, if everyone is on the same page regarding financial decisions, if the women want to be led by the man instead of them dominating the man, because women are not asking to be in a relationship and lead, because if they were going to lead, then they would be responsible. So, if they want to be led by the man where they have no responsibility, they need to then have that conversation, come to an understanding of financial expectations, and then let the man make it happen. Now, I know some women are going to be objective to that, but nevertheless, it is true, because protect and provide is the only thing that you expect from the men outside of sex. And protecting and providing means that he must provide the resources and manage the resources to make sure that the resources are accessible by you. Therefore, if you're not going to take over the man's role of protecting and providing, you are to relinquish the information that the man is required to have to protect and provide. I don't understand why relationships require for a man to prove his loyalty, love, and affection to a woman by submitting to her, but it's oppressive for her to do the same thing to him. I feel like in a uniform perspective, if she wants to love, respect, and appreciate and value her man, then she should be submissive to him the way she expects him to at times submit to her. Now, if there is a admiration being passed back and forth between the two parties, then there is a level of mutual respect, not the expectation of one side dominating the other. Clearly, that's not going to happen with the egos that we have in America, but apparently that would be the more healthier side of things. So one of the biggest challenges people are facing when it comes to nurturing relationships that can lead to financial opportunities is trust. This is why we're putting GPS trackers on everybody's cell phones. How can we trust others with our business ideas, our financial goals, or even our personal lives? It's hard to say. There are very few people that you can trust. If they have access to your bank accounts, they will steal money out of your accounts. There are people where if they have access to your personal information, they will run off with your personal information before they have an argument with you about the scenario where they've disappeared, but they've gutted all of your accounts and the police can't do anything to help you. It happens to the best of us. It's a valid concern, especially in today's world where everyone's a stranger until proven otherwise. And the fact is that we don't know anybody. We clearly don't know who our neighbors are. We don't know who our neighbors' family are. We stay to ourselves, and we're typically only socializing with one another on social media until such time as somebody bumps into us in public and starts trying to engage us, where we are at that point the most defensive. Women are not used to being engaged by men, but then they get mad when they're not engaged by men. And then when they get engaged by men, they shut the men down. The men are not willing to be embarrassed by women because of the rejection that's going to happen. But it makes absolutely no sense that the men are expected to engage to get the rejection, but the women are not going to positively receive the gesture and at least be polite or respectful about the rejection. So it makes absolutely no sense why that level of abuse has to be forced upon the man. I don't know, but that's where we are. And this is going to lead to the fear of being taken advantage of, which holds us back. And we miss out on potential collaborations where we could have partnered with somebody that was a good fit for us. Like, for example, my homeboy, Mr. Pibbs, he went out on his blind date with a girl that had her own Instagram channel. She had a bunch of followers. She went out on the date. Instead, he didn't like talking to her because she spent more time streaming her life on social media than talking to him. He's a content creator too. So what you're telling me is that her 10, 15, 20, 50, 75,000, 100,000 followers, you're not going to collaborate with this girl and y'all like share fans and boost your channel, by the way, because he's got like 100 followers. I mean, you could boost your followers that way. No, he's gonna figure something out, friend zone style, with somebody that already turned him down. I didn't understand it, but the fact is that he missed out on a potential collaboration. I tried to mentor him here on the podcast. He didn't take the mentorship. He's trying to do his own thing where he's less successful over there than what he was over here, missing out on mentorships. Even a lifelong friendship that could take our finances to the next level, where I've started up 4 businesses and I'm like, hey, run it with me and I'll break you off. And he's working on Uber and working for a tech company. So he's doing 80 hours a week instead of, doing less and making more money. I'm like, all right, it is what it is. Eventually, we have to deal with the emotional wealth that we are missing out on because of our poor choices. I try to warn people, but they just got to figure it out for themselves. If you invest in emotional wealth connections, you have to realize that just as you invest financially, you invest emotionally in your relationships. You show appreciation and affection and be mindful of each other's emotional needs. Now, you want to create an emotional bank account. And according to Dr. John Gottman, you want maintaining a positive balance in your emotional bank account through positive interactions can enhance relationship satisfaction. Another challenge is communication. So, how do we communicate effectively with others to build strong relationships? It's easy to get caught up in our own world and forget to listen actively, clarify expectations, or even follow up with people who can help us achieve our goals. And yet, effective communication is the foundation of any successful relationship, personal or professional. When we fail to communicate effectively, we risk misunderstandings, conflicts, and even lost opportunities. Then there's the issue of missed networking chances. Attending conferences, seminars, or even social events can be intimidating, especially if we're introverts or feel like we don't belong. But what if we saw these opportunities not as a chance to collect business cards, but as a chance to genuinely connect with like minded individuals who share our passions and values? If we focused on building meaningful relationships with rather than just accumulating contacts, we would then be able to have a larger network of individuals that we have a meaningful and intimate connection with, that platonic at verse 4, we would be able to then develop not only really good business relationships, but really good personal relationships where the people around you don't piss you off all the time. And I don't understand why we don't think about these things. But what about when we're in a room full of people, but still feel like we're the only one who truly gets it? How do we find our tribe, our community, our people? It's a common struggle, especially when we're trying to build a business or invest in our future. We might feel like we're alone in our journey, but the truth is, there are people out there who share our vision and our values and our goals. We just need to find them and nurture those relationships. So, how do we calculate strong relationships that can lead to financial opportunities? One strategy is effective networking. This doesn't mean collecting business cards or attending events just for the sake of it. It means finding people who share our values, our passions, and our goals, and building genuine connections with them. This is the same thing I've been telling you guys when you're out there calling yourselves as moderate to high value men, trying to meet a woman that is on your level, that is cooperative. We're not looking for women that are just going to be our servants. We're looking for somebody that values the same things that we value, have the same goals and ambitions that we have, that are willing to go in the same direction that we're going and not be oppressive or dominating or any type of an emotional tyrant at the same time. We're looking for cooperation, not dictatorship. We're not looking for a yes man, but we're definitely not looking for arguing our partner down in order for us to succeed for our partner. And that's one of the things that when we have these relationship topics, they don't really understand that on the opposite side, because this is from the perspective of men. So from the perspective of women, I'm wrong because I'm a man, not because the information is true and factual all the way around. It's because they don't agree with the delivery of the message. And typically the message gets lost in the misguided lights of what about, negative engagements. Well, we're not talking about negative engagements. We're talking about finding and maintaining the positive ones. We're talking about avoiding the negative as soon as you spot the negative and focusing and maintaining and nurturing the positive ones. So this means being intentional about who we surround ourselves with. And that's why I tell you guys on a regular basis that from first contact, we need to stand on non-negotiable expectations for behavior. There are certain things that you can allow, because like I grew up with the old saying that if you find somebody that meets 80% of your expectations and you're willing to tolerate the other 20%, then you're good to go. That works for relationships, that works for marriages, that works for friendships. There's a couple things that you're not okay with, but nobody's going to be perfect. But the fact is that if your pet peeve is something that's going to piss you off to high heaven, is the one thing that that person's doing, this situation is not going to last long. Because right now, while you're allowing it to happen because the engagements are new, eventually it's going to get on your nerves. And the first thing that you don't want to do is have the expectation that the other person must change, because the other person is who they are when you meet them, and you are not supposed to force them to change so that they can be involved with you. They choose to change if they want to, and then they are going to be involved with you. But if you are going to be involved with them the way they are when you meet them, then you have to choose to change your expectations to match their behavior pattern if you are going to keep them involved in your operations. Now, this is something that people don't really think about. So if in the event that you have certain expectations, the notice every time you guys come to the podcast, and we're live 7 nights a week, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 5 Pacific. You've never seen me with a throwback jersey on, long white tee. I've never been dressed like I'm on my way to bed. I'm always here in a suit, always dressed casual at the very least, if not dress business professional. And the fact is that if I have a partner that's going to match that expectation, she's not going to have extremely short shorts, low rider shorts on, matching that with a halter top or something like that, because that attire is not going to match my attire. I'm not going to change my attire and go from being professionally dressed to dressing like I belong in a street gang. I'm not going to partner with an individual that is going to have extremely short mini skirts that's showing her behind in the back and showing her crotch in the front, because that's not going to match my style. So in those situations, when women find a man that is more often than not conservative and even semi-professionally dressed, and that woman decides that she wants to have scantily clad outfits on because she thinks that looks cute, that's not actually cute. That is actually overly sexualized, which is more to the magnitude of attracting more sexual attention to you while you're with your boyfriend. And that's not what your goal is supposed to be when you're in a healthy relationship with your spouse. Your spouse is supposed to be the one that has your undivided attention, not the random men that walk through the streets. So when a man asks a woman to change her outfit to something more conservative, to something a little less revealing or emphasizing, where the attention is drawn to looking her in the eyes, not looking at all of her personal parts. The fact is that the women get upset because they feel like they can say and do whatever they want to say and do while they put extra effort into overly sexualizing themselves, when that behavior is only supposed to be done to find a match. So if you've already found your match, you're not supposed to be dressing like you're still single. You're supposed to be dressed like you're taken. And that's what men try to tell women. And then also the other position that happens is when there is the issue with where you're going and when you're going there. We have a lot of people that don't want to be told that you probably shouldn't go to certain places at certain times because it's not going to be safe for you, and the man is supposed to be protective. If the man is supposed to be protective, it's not a good idea for the woman to go somewhere without telling the man where she is, because how can he protect her if he doesn't know where she is? Women say, well, I can protect myself. True enough, but would you prefer to catch the bullet, or would you prefer for me to catch the bullet for you? If the answer is that you would expect the man to protect you from the bullet, then you got to tell him where you are at all times so that he can know that you're safe. Now, if you want to be she woman and you want to protect your man, then, you know, the shoe's on the other foot. But typically, the protecting and providing role comes from the man. And in order for a protector to protect you, the protector must know where you are. CIA security for a president is going to do the same thing. If they don't know where you are, you're not protected. So think about this. Now, back to the main topic. You want to establish clear financial boundaries. Discussing how wealth will be managed within a relationship, especially when it comes to loans or financial support from family members or for family members, especially, will prevent misunderstandings and potential conflicts. This is going to be one of those things that is very important because a lot of us have families. A lot of us have mothers and fathers that need money, and we work, we live on our own, and we send money back to our family members. A lot of us have families that live in our house where we consolidate our financial expenses by paying for one house and being there with the family member instead of paying for two separate houses to make sure that that family member is taken care of. We have people who um, have to deal with child support, alimony, and other such. So it's good to be able to notate that you have other financial expenses that are family related, where the family members that you are compensating will be included in your budget. You have to recognize that if you are in situations where you have certain cousins and uncles and whatever that frequently go to jail and you're the one to bail them out, and the 10% that you pay to the bail bondsman that you never get back is money that you put aside for them to get out of jail, and that's what you have to reconcile with them after they get out. You just got to let your family members know that there's an emergency fund that is dedicated to when Uncle Earl gets himself locked back up again. And that they have to understand that. Because if you're not clear about these types of financial obligations that you have in your personal life, when you get into a committed relationship and you are forever going to perform this particular type of behavior financially for a family member or even a friend of sorts, they will start challenging your ability to do that and then becoming a little bit more aggressive and oppressive to the fact that you decided that this is what you are going to do for this person because that person is in some way, shape, or form a financial burden for the spouse. But it wasn't an issue before you got into the relationship. And that's why if you're clear about these things, you will prevent having misunderstandings and potential conflicts in your relationship, because you won't be arguing about why the budget is short because you took specific quantities of capital to go and take care of something for a family member that you normally take a specific quantity of capital to go take care of. This is a part of financial transparency with your partner, where they are supposed to be responsible for being transparent with you on an equivalent basis, with you being transparent from them. Another strategy is mentorship. Now, mentorship is hard, but having someone who's been in our shoes, who's faced similar challenges, and who comes out on top can be a game changer. Because we have a lot of people who've been through what we've been through, faced some of the challenges that we faced, and have yet to come out on top. That level of mentorship from somebody that's telling you that you're going down the wrong path is very, very key. Even if they have not bounced back from it yet, knowing how far they've fallen because of the bad choices that they made should be enough for you to understand that you can't do that. Because if you do that, you will fail. Does that make sense? Now, when we're looking at somebody who's rich and they're going to tell us what steps they took to get rich, oh yeah, we'll follow those instructions. But when we're looking at somebody who's stable, just average person who's stable, and he's telling you not to waste money out there at the club, he's telling you not to waste money on expensive dates, he's telling you not to waste money on fancy luxurious toys and entertainment style things that really you don't do nothing but look at it. You might play with it the first couple times, but then after that you're pretty much not going to do anything with it. You know, that's not something that you want, something that you buy that will inherently collect dust after the first 5 or 10 times you look at it. It's just going to be somewhere in your house taking up space and collecting dust. Where if once a year you blow the dust off of it and decide to take it with you, if once a year you do that, you are not dealing with a really valuable asset. You're dealing with a liability because that item cost you money and made you no money. And again, when we're living in our transactional society right now in the United States, we have to remember that we are supposed to be putting forth our efforts to make every transaction a positive one. And we're not necessarily going to succeed with every transaction being a profitable one, but we will succeed with making sure that some of our transactions, more like 80% of them, if we're going to be successful, are positive transactions. And even if we're doing 70% of our transactions are positive transactions, we have a 90% return on 100% of our investments, whether we're getting more effort back for our effort, or we're getting more money back for our effort, or we're getting more effort back for our money. One of the three, we're going to work it out some kind of way where we're getting more back than what we're putting out 70% of the time. Because that way we can say that we have successfully replenished our resources for redistribution, whether it's emotional resources or actual physical resources or physical labor and energy. If we are recouping that, then we are able to redistribute that. But if we're not recouping that, then we can't continue to redistribute that, because that's going to put us in an emotional bind. It's going to put us in a financial bind, and it's going to put us in a emotional and financial strain that will ultimately negatively impact our health and our financial success, where we will then fail because we no longer have the resources that we need to succeed. And this is a very key point that we need to think about. They can offer guidance and support if you have a very wise mentor. They can give you wisdom that can help us through shortcuts in our learning curves and achieve our goals faster. But mentorship isn't just about finding someone to guide us. It's also about being open to learning from others, being coachable, and being willing to take action on the advice we receive, which means that somebody's not just going to tell you to do something and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll look into that. And then you don't, because you're going to be in the same spot that you were in the first time you mentioned a situation, and they're going to be like, yeah, remember the last time I told you to go do X, Y, and Z, you never done it. See, the thing is that if you're not going to take action on the advice that you received, where the next time you talk about this situation, you're reporting back to your mentor the results of the advice that you received. That is the most effective way to utilize mentorship. Even if you started trying it and before you failed, you did not understand which direction you were going, and you came back and you're like, hey, I started trying to do what you said, but I didn't know which direction to go with it. This is where I'm at. What do you think I should do? You know, that's how you're able to put yourself in a better position with receiving and learning new knowledge. Now, when it comes to being a mentor requires a lot of patience. And the reason why being a mentor requires a lot of patience is because the average American is hard-headed. Like, they're very, very stubborn. Do not like being told what to do or how to do it. Very, very defensive. And very insecure to be able to release confidential information about their blatant flaws and failures from stupid decisions. And I can only call them stupid decisions because they knew that the decision was unfavorable to their success, and they made that decision anyway. That is when they are causing themselves unnecessary suffering from self-fulfilling prophecies of failure. And we have to be able to learn as mentors that we have to maintain a level of patience with our mentees, with our apprentices. And a lot of mentors get pissed off and start fussing at the mentees, and I can tell you that it doesn't help, because they're going to listen less. The same way children listen less to their parents when their parents are fussing at them all the time, they're going to listen less. So understanding that they're failing, taking it in stride, and just showing them, hey, If you do this better, you will see better results. If you remember what I'm telling you and apply that, you will see better results. Once you start applying what I've said do, you will see better results. In these scenarios, until they do what you ask them to do, because it's not negatively impacting your life. If it is, you've got to redirect your position in their life so that their mistakes are not negatively impacting your life. But if it's not, then why are you mad at the fact that they ruined their life? If they call you and they ask you to come and bail them out of a situation that you told them that you would not be able to bail them out of before they got into it, it's like I said before you got started that I can't come get you out of that one if you do that. You did it. I'm glad you told me. I'll be here for you when it's over, but I can't get involved in that. I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes you have to stand on those non-negotiable expectations for behavior. I was told when I was a child that there are certain decisions that if I make those decisions and I end up in trouble, that ain't nobody coming to visit me on Sundays and ain't nobody putting no money on my canteen, which meant that I didn't make those kinds of decisions. Because I knew that if I made that type of decision, ain't nobody coming to visit me on Sundays and ain't nobody putting no money on my canteen. I'm not gonna have no money on my band for no collect calls, so ain't nobody answering the phone. So if I don't want to be stuck in a situation where ain't nobody coming to get me, I have to make sure that I do not deliberately make the kind of mistakes that puts me in a negative position that would not be favorable for my agenda or my personal expectations. I got to tell you guys, this is some very serious decision-making processes, which actually helps us in our investment strategies and portfolios. Because making a bad business deal is the same as making a bad personal decision in your personal life. Putting your money towards a high volatile stock that is not going to show you any positive returns is equivalent to getting involved with a high risk relationship that's going to cause you to have half your house burnt down. We got to really think about the decisions that we're making and the cause and effect. We've got to do risk assessments. And if it's not showing favorable to us, that we should probably not get involved in that. And favorable doesn't mean that I'm going to get without putting anything in it. That's not what favorable means. Favorable means that I'm getting something out of this that I need or want or desire in exchange for what I'm putting into it. And what I'm putting into it is reasonable in comparison to what I'm getting out of it. Because if I'm putting in a lot, like a lot of men are in relationships right now where they're putting a lot into the relationship and the woman is just coasting, that's not favorable to you, bro, because she's coasting. If she ain't putting in the same quantity of effort for success that you're putting in, it ain't going to work. It's the same way if you're dumping money into a stock that's not giving you back any dividends, it's just continuously going on a downward spiral, it's not going to work. You're just throwing away your money. You're throwing away your effort. You're throwing away your resources. That's not what you want to have. You want to have involvement with friendships that are going to be fruitful for you. So you don't want to have friends that only come to you when they need money. You don't want to have friends that only come to you when they want something. You don't want to be in a relationship where the girlfriend's only nice to you when you're about to get paid. You don't want to be in a marriage where the woman's only willing to do something for you when she's about to ask you for a large quantity of money for something that is not going to benefit either one of you. And you don't want to be in engagements with family members and relationships and friendships where the people are arguing with you and belittling you because you have more money than they thought you had, and now they want more money from you for whatever personal desires that they have. Because you have some people with family members that will come and talk to you about their day and tell you about how they're going through financial troubles. That's not your financial troubles. You got a cousin or auntie or a grandma that money ain't right. They money ain't right. That ain't got nothing to do with your money. But if you make their problem your problem, now it's your problem. And if you make their problem your problem and you're not in the type of relationship where your partner is willing to make their problem her problem or his problem, then you're sitting over here taking on the financial responsibilities of extended family members, and your partner is not okay with that particular decision. Now you got a problem at home. You got to make decisions that are not going to negatively impact your own personal success. So one more thing that you want to do is you want to increase financial literacy together. When you're increasing financial literacy together, you're dating a person that if she doesn't know what a Bitcoin is, you're going to have to tell her. Because if somebody walks up to me and asks me, will I take a $100 bill or a Bitcoin right now? I swear that if the person standing next to me says the $100 bill, I'm going to be in handcuffs. That's the result of that scenario. You will not turn away $90,000 worth of capital because you don't know what it is. But at the same time, we have to recognize that if he didn't try to teach her what it was before she made that ridiculous decision, then he's reasonably liable for her failure to have that kind of knowledge. Now she knows exactly what that is and exactly what it's worth and how you get your hands on it, how to convert it from a Bitcoin to actual cash money that you can spend, and she still decides to grab that $100, then hey, she's got to go. But the difference between the word coin versus the word dollars, they're going to take the dollar first because no one actually contemplates the value of a coin being more than the value of a dollar. So you start getting solid gold coins that are worth like $4,500. But again, you have to know the value. So having financial literacy would aid you in your ability to do the currency exchanges in your head. Now, engaging in activities that boost your financial knowledge as a couple or a family. This could include reading books, attending workshops, or meeting with financial advisors together. You'll be able to support each other's growth and encourage one another to pursue personal development goals because you already know what they're trying to do and how successful they could be at it if they did it a certain way. Whether they are related to, whether this development is related to finances or other areas of life, if you are able to know what is going on with your partner and your partner is able to educate you on what they're trying to achieve, and you are able to be supportive of that particular achievement because you understand what he or she is attempting to do, you are able to make yourself more successful and able to make your family more successful. Your partners, your relationships, your business relationships. You would be able to make your teammates more successful because if you know what they're trying to accomplish, then you know what they are capable of. Now, we've got more. Collaboration is also a key. When we partner with like-minded individuals, which is why I keep trying to tell you to find people that will adhere to your non-negotiable expectations for behavior, we can achieve far more than we could on our own. Because it doesn't matter when we tell women that the man that is on your level is not a man that does more than you, that can make more than you, that brings in more than you. A man that's on your level is a man that can do for you what you can do for yourself. Because if he can do it for you while he's still taking care of himself, he's able to take care of two people when you were barely able to take care of one. So technically, even on that playing field, he's still above your level because you can't afford to take care of two people, but he can. So instead of having that inflated ego, you still have the ability to have somebody that can manage your resources more effectively than you're able to manage your resources because you could barely get it on your own. And I could do bad all by myself is a good mentality to have when you're thinking about domestic violence, but you can't be sitting here thinking about I can do it all by myself when you're looking for a healthy and positive relationship. You have to be able to share your resources and expertise and network to create something truly remarkable, which means that you have to be able to collaborate with your partner in order for you both to achieve a higher level of success. That is going to require trust and communication and the willingness to work together towards that common goal. And that right there is one of the key factors when women are complaining about men that are dating younger women, and women are complaining about men that are not willing to date the women that are over the age of 30. Once you've reached the mentality where you're not willing to cooperate, once you've reached the mentality where you're not willing to negotiate with your partner and aim for your partner's success, when you have become completely selfish to your own personal desires, you have forfeited your position in a relationship because you are no longer in the mindset of codependency. You are in the mindset of individuality. And individuality is not successful in a relationship. Individuality, you will sacrifice your partner for your own personal success. The same way a ball hog sacrifices the team winning for their own personal shot record, for their own personal glory. You will recognize that a solo player will cause more losses in a team game than a team player that aims for the success of the team. Mentally, we have to put ourselves in a position where we're aiming for the success of the group, which means that everybody succeeds, not just one side or the other. Everyone succeeds. Everyone gets a little something of what they're looking for. And unfortunately, when we're in situations where one side wants all of it and they're getting nothing in return in exchange, and the side that's giving it all up is not receiving anything in compensation for what they're giving up, it is not a reasonable, logical, or rational arrangement. And a new arrangement needs to be made. Or some people need to be removed from that engagement, because there's no way that you're going to say that it's fair to mistreat one person for the sake of another. And that is unethical, because if you were the one being mistreated, you would say that it's not fair. So if you're the one that's not being mistreated, why would you say that it's fair that you are allowed to treat somebody worse than what you would prefer to be treated? This is why in inequality discussions, men specifically tell women, hey, let's flip that. And if you are on the receiving end of the expectations you give to me, this is where soft guy drizzle came for in 2024. If you're on a receiving end of your expectations for me, how would you feel about that? And usually women are appalled by it. Well, guess what? Everyone feels the same way. So when we have those discussions and it's like you bring it to light, not a lot of women are willing to accept the fact and admit the fact that this does happen, whether they do it or somebody they know does it. The simple fact that it happens so much that the men are experiencing it often enough for the men to say, this is a problem. And no one's willing to admit, no, you're right, it is a problem. And then change. So even if it's a common problem amongst other people, you make sure you're not involved in that common problem because you're not doing that. And then accountability, you make sure that your sisters ain't doing that with you, your homegirls ain't doing that with you. Then at least you can change the social pool that you're involved in, where you're not contributing to the negative vibe of the current dating pool in 2024. And that might open doors for you to find more healthy and positive engagements. But until changes occur, you're still going to be stuck in the same situation. So when we require this open-mindedness and the ability to listen to others and be willing to compromise when necessary, and it's necessary to compromise when we don't agree. And there is never a position where you're not required to give up 10% to get the other 90. It doesn't always have to be 50-50. It could be 60-40 this time, 70-30 the next time, 40-60 the other time. Sometimes I can get more, sometimes you can get more, but there's supposed to be a reasonable balance of sacrifice. And if there isn't a reasonable balance of sacrifice, you are deliberately abusing the other person, and you are not showing anything in return. And that's one of those issues. Vera's back, y'all. How you doing, Vera? Got the name right this time. I was sitting here looking at the face, and I was about to say Valencia. But yes, what we're going to be dealing with next is building a diverse network, because that's very, very important. Now, you need to cultivate a broad network that includes professionals from various fields. You're looking at lawyers and accountants. And guess what? You're looking at people in advertisement, real estate. You're looking at marketing. You're looking at really a lot of different fields. You don't want to limit it to any one field. This diversity can provide valuable insights and opportunities for collaborations, because what one person might be able to do, another person will not be able to do. And when you're dealing with a larger network of individuals, you have the capabilities to touch base with even more concepts when you start utilizing critical thinking. A lot of us who've been through math experience the X, Y, and Z variables when they first came out. And when you start mixing and matching and interchanging how X, Y, and Z worked, and then you start thinking about F of X, F of G, F of H of X, and you start dealing with all of these different combinations, that's the way that you're able to combine the network that you build. But you must build that network, remember that network, and utilize that network to your advantage, not just for you to personally receive. Sometimes you make yourself more successful when you know someone in your network that has a service that needs to be selected, purchased, paid for, and you have another person in your network that needs that type of service. Putting those two together benefits you, because now you have two individuals in your network that is eager to reciprocate that connection by finding someone that matches your interests, or finding someone that meets your needs, which means that for every two people in your network that you bring together, the odds are that one of them will bring you at least one connection. It's percent, which means that you, for every two people that you bring together in your network will bring you two people that you don't have to look for. That's where the age-old saying in different passages of the Bible is that when you do something generous for somebody else, that you receive it tenfold, not because you're entitled to get it, because the people that you have done things for feel so indebted to you that they will give you 10 times more in return out of gratitude for the magnitude of effort that you put into them. So for each person that you connect to somebody else and you solve a major problem for them, that person may send 10 people in your direction, which means that those two people may send you 20 people tenfold. And you ended up with more effort, well, more work that your effort earned you. This is one of the reasons why we say give before you take. There's an old saying where I come from called lanyap, means give a little extra. No matter how much you get from somebody else, you always give a little extra. But if you're always giving a little extra, like Job under the tree, people will see you, and it's called a spiritual networking. Okay, I can buy that. It does play in line with what we're dealing with. It's not so much spiritual networking, it's more along the lines of social networking, and it is playing to the tune of uh, not just utilizing your network selfishly, but utilizing your network for the benefit of your network, because your network is only as strong as the connection between you and your network. And it's like that old saying where you are as strong as your weakest link in your team. A leader is only as strong as the weakest soldier, and when we deal with those interactions where we have some people that want to be leaders, but they have no responsibility. In order for you to lead, you have to be willing to take responsibility for the outcome, which means that you've got to deal with the financial fallouts. And saying that it's a man's job is not a good way to deal with the financial fallouts. So we have to have those abilities to lead from the rear as leaders, because if you're leading from the rear as a leader, you're going to be, if you're leading from the rear, you're able to observe when things are starting to fall apart. A lot like in a chess game, the king is in the back row, the king's not in the front row. So as the pawns move forward, the king is able to dictate which way it needs to be gone. And a queen that is going to support her king is always going to be there to protect the king and make sure that the king is successful. So if the queen is working towards the king's success and the king is working towards the team's success, then everybody is taken care of. Not too many people consider interactions like that, but truthfully, if your mentality change from I got to get mine out of this situation to we have to get ours out of this situation, then you will have more of a cooperative engagement, because relationships are more codependent. Now, Vera says we're all spiritual beings, so sure. Well, we are in fact inherently mentored into spiritual beings. Even if we claim to be atheists as adults, most of us start off in some side of excuse me, um, religious background, spiritual background. And whether we went to church until we were like 12 or we followed a friend to church, we have had exposure to spiritual and religious backgrounds. But that does fundamentally deliver you the core ethics, morals, and ethics that you utilize to make decisions. It doesn't, on the other hand, really guide you into more financially prosperous decisions, because you are, from a spiritual perspective, not even paying attention to the words that are coming from the spiritual guidance. Because the fact is that you are supposed to treat people the way you want to be treated. Means that in our social interaction conversations, we have the ladies who prefer to not treat the men the way the women have their expectations. You're asking for or demanding actions and behavior to benefit you in a fashion where you're not willing to perform those same tasks for the other person. We also have the way that women dress is nowhere near the modest and conservative expectations of the religious upbringings. And a selfish desire that is full of greed and gluttony is definitely not following a line with the spiritual and religious upbringings. And we also have the lustful desires that strays us away, and the adultery that also strays us away, that also doesn't adhere to the spiritual upbringings. So while we may have a fundamental core that we don't pay any attention to on a regular basis, the spiritual networking would not be what I would lean towards in this particular scenario, because it would be more. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that it's just not something that is widely put to action these days. Vera says, most of the women today make me sad. Me too. They just seem to care about what they can get out of a man. I completely agree. And it's not all of the women, though, but a lot of the ones, at least here in the Western culture, have been spoiled by the culture, where they have received with no responsibility to reciprocate. They have had the ability to have the handout, to get more for just being cute or being sexually desired. And that leads them to inherit this behavior pattern where, if they carry themselves overly sexualized, that they will receive more attention, that will provide them with more resources that they don't have to earn. So the effort that some women put into themselves is to make themselves desirable enough to receive from men without any form of reciprocation. And then the mentality is that because I look good, I'm entitled to X, Y, and Z. But that mentality doesn't work both ways, because just because the man looks good doesn't mean he's entitled to the exact same treatment from the woman, from that same woman. And that means that that mentality is not universal. And as a man of uniformity, from the man's perspective, if we can't switch roles and it still be fair, then it wasn't fair to begin with. If we can't switch positions and it still be fair, then it wasn't fair to begin with. And with that being said, we really have to rethink the interactions between women and men, because if we're not uh, paying attention to what our partner needs, not just what they want, what our partner needs, and then adding that to our agenda to make sure that our partners doesn't go undone, then we are not caring for our partner. So those women that say that they're independent, it is a terrible, terrible mentality to have, because if you are independent, you are all about yourself and you're selfish, because codependency, pack mentality is not going to be about my success. Self-sufficiency means that you can hold yourself down. But independent means that you are a solo operation. Self-sufficiency can still be codependent and operate in pack mentality. Pack mentality is not, I'm going to get mine. Pack mentality is going to be, I'm going to get enough for all of us. Pack mentality is, I need to put in extra effort to make sure that I have enough for everyone else in my pack. Individuality, independence means I just need to get enough for me. And if I want more, I need to get more from somebody else. But I don't have to give that person anything to get it, if possible. And bare minimum provisions usually occurs when something has to happen. And that mentality corrupts social engagements and makes relationships very difficult in 2024. So definitely glad you said that, Vera. That has been one of the things I've been talking about on the podcast for a long period of time. But when we start talking about giving back, you want to focus on offering value to others in your network. And that's why I said in the beginning that your goal is to put two people in your network together to make sure that both of the people in your network succeed. My legacy is the success of the people around me. My legacy is not how much wealth that I make for myself, because I will be more inherently wealthy if I have a wealthy network. You remember the mentality from back in the day called hood rich? The term hood rich means that even though I'm broke, I still got everything that I need. Why? Because I'm taken care of by my neighborhood. Why am I taken care of by my neighborhood? Because I take care of my neighborhood. That is a pack mentality. Okay, you broke, you work two jobs, you don't got enough money to pay your bills, but your bills still get paid. Why? Because your neighborhood help you take care of your bills. Why? Because you take care of your neighborhood. You help your neighborhood with their kids, cut their grass, fix their cars, whatever they need. You got them, so they got you. That's pack mentality. That is not independence. No one is independent and hood rich at the same time, because you're not going to be taken care of by your community because you've only taken care of yourself. You're independently taking care of yourself. You are singular variable. There are no factors to your equation because you are the only one. And that mentality has to be shifted. So if you're focusing on the value of your network and focusing on making sure that your network succeeds without immediately expecting something in return, you will be able to build goodwill and strengthen connections. So let's talk about investment principles that complement these relationships. One key principle is diversification. Just like we diversify our investment portfolio to minimize risk, we should diversify our relationships to maximize our opportunities. This means surrounding ourselves with people from different backgrounds, industries, and expertise so that we can learn from them and grow together. You're going to have short-term versus long-term engagements. Clearly outline what you want to achieve with your investment, whether it's saving for retirement, buying a home, or funding education. Diversifying your investments, you'll be able to achieve more effective asset allocations. Spreading your investments across asset classes like stocks, bonds, real estate to minimize risks will enhance potential returns. You want to consider emerging markets, looking into investing in countries with high growth potential where you can enter with a relatively low capital and experience excessively high gains and returns. One of the reasons why I had the last 12 shows was to explain to you how you can go to other countries and establish an offshore bank account. Offshore bank accounts are non-US bank accounts. You can get involved with offshore investing. Offshore investing is not investing in US commerce. You will not have to deal with the currency exchange because you already put your money in that country's currency. I've given you at least 20 different countries you can invest in that gives as much as 40% returns on the capital that you invest. I've showed you how you start up businesses in other countries where you could then potentially reap the benefits from the investments, offsetting the cost of expenses of running the business, which any type of taxes that would be coming from that country would then zero itself out, where you are looking at walking away with 80% profits no matter what you did. Then I talked to you about the fact that if you set up these businesses and you put them into trust that either you control or somebody that you trust controls, because that's what a trust has. You have trustees, the people that you trust to run things the way it needs to be run. Then you, as the beneficiary of that trust, can now get the financial benefits from building businesses all across the world. So all of these individual shows that I've had over the past 2 weeks led up to this particular type of conversation. I always piece everything together, and I definitely try to make it make sense by the end of things. And if you're able to do this, then you're also able to have the same type of financial network that you have with an emotional connection network, relationships and friendship networks that you build. And one of the things that allows you to be more effective in your network is being able to stay informed and having the ability to adapt. When you're monitoring the market trends, you want to be able to keep an eye on economic industries. These indicators that change market conditions could impact your investment. One of the reasons why I started talking about artificial intelligence and I started talking about Elon Musk's designs with his singular robots, the robot dogs, driving cars, the electric cars versus the non-electric cars, the electric cars that caught on fire that we're going to be doing a show about soon that are no longer being covered by certain insurance companies, at least not in flood zones. We're looking at all of these things change markets. They don't just change markets, they also change your ability to be successful in such said markets. Being able to determine how to be successful in certain markets. For example, in Japan, you have some properties that you could purchase for no money. You just have to pay the property taxes, the land tax. And then after you pay the land tax, you can build on it. And the cost of building on it is considered a financial loss in that country, which is why nobody does it. But as a foreign domestic country, if you're claiming that as a tax write-off because it's considered a financial loss, then all of the money you're making in the US can be offset by all the money you're spending in Japan. But then you can turn that asset into a capital gain because the revenue received from that particular property becoming a rental property is going to still be a profit in your pocket, offsetting the profits you're making in the US versus the profits that you're making in Japan. So is it really a financial loss? Or is it just simply the long-term financial gains, not under the interest of the short-term investor? Think about it. Only thing stopping you from rebuilding a house is the building code that prevents you from rebuilding that structure, which if you file the appropriate petitions to the local government, you can overturn some of those zoning restrictions. And if you overturn those zoning restrictions, guess what you can do? Rebuild. But you got to pay the cost to be the boss. So in order for you to change the way things are going, you are going to have to change the way people see your situation. So in order for you to convince them to work in your favor, you got to put a certain quantity of capital up to get what you need in return. So being informed allows you to make timely adjustments. You want to make sure that you're continuously learning as well. Staying up to date on investment strategies and making changes through reading, courses, and seminars will aid you in the ability to learn and grow in whatever market or multiple markets that you're planning to be in. It also aids you in having the ability to come to understand the advancements and ability to utilize technologies. When your investments include apps and tools that aid you in leveraging technology for managing investment effectively, you will end up acquiring many apps that offer insight into portfolio performance and market trends. This will give you the ability to automate your investments in some scenarios and consider setting up automatic contributions to the investment accounts to ensure consistent investing without the temptation to spend the money elsewhere. What that means is that if you have an account where the stock option is paying you dividends, instead of them paying you dividends and you taking the dividends and going off somewhere, you take those dividends and reinvest it into that stock. Over time, taking the dividends and reinvesting into that stock is going to give that stock a higher principal. Giving that stock a higher principal gives that stock a larger percentage return on the investment, which then ultimately gives you a larger revenue received. Where at some point you will reach a point where you will say, well, out of the 5%, I'm going to reinvest 3%. I'll keep the other 2%. But if you're getting 5% of $100,000 and you're going to keep 2% and reinvest the other 3%, out of $5,000, you're going to give back $3,000 and keep $2,000. But each time you do that, your $100,000 goes up to $103,000. And your $103,000 goes up to, by the time you finish, if you're doing it quarterly, $112,000. But you still pocketed $6,000. Fact is, you got to be able to look at how you're going to be able to reinvest into your success and still be able to have a reasonable standard of living on top of that. You want to make sure that you seek personal advice. Now, personal advice is going to be just like mentorship, but mentorship and personal advice are not so much the same, because when you need this, if you are uncertain about investment choices or financial planning, consult with a financial advisor who can provide personalized guidance based on your situation. One of those personalized guidance individuals, like Joe Mastrano, that is a CPA that's been saving people over $10,000 a year on their taxes, is one of those ways where if you want his information, make sure that you comment down below and I'll provide it to you. And comment after the show in addition to that, and I'll provide it to you because we have some of his links in a lot of our shows. But you would be able to get a lot of financial advice, because not only does he operate in taxes, he also operates in investing. He's a day trader in addition to being a tax agent, because we only really need to do taxes quarterly if we're a business and annually if we're not. So he's got a brilliant free time to move his money around and make more money, make money for him. One of my favorite success stories is that of Richard Branson, who attributes his success to the strong relationships he's built over the years. From Virgin Records to Virgin Airlines, a lot of Virgins, Richard has consistently surrounded himself with talented individuals who share his visions and values. He built relationships that have led to business partnership, collaborations, and even long-term friendships. And it's no coincidence that he's achieved financial freedom and built a business empire that's envy of many. So there was a pivotal moment in Richard's journey when he realized that the only way to achieve his vision was to surround himself with people who were smarter, more talented, and more experienced than him. He learned to delegate and empower the others. And that's one of the things that's really important. When we're thinking about being a leader, we've talked about on many occasions that behind every strong man was a strong woman. Being a leader that leads from the rear, the woman would be able to not just dictate terms. She would be able to empower her boyfriend or her husband to be able to accomplish the goals that she would desire to accomplish, and then trust in their abilities to be successful instead of contradicting and second guessing it. That's when this business started to take off. And it's a powerful lesson that highlights the importance of relationships in achieving financial success. So building wealth relationships while creating a winning investment portfolio requires intentional effort in both areas. By fostering open communication, emotional connections, and shared learning experiences within a relationship, you can create a strong foundation for mutual growth. Simultaneously, by defining clear investment goals, diversifying assets, staying informed, utilizing technology, and seeking professional advice when necessary. You can develop a robust investment strategy that aligns with your financial aspirations and balance the elements, which will lead to both personal fulfillment and financial success over time. It's not just about accumulating wealth, and I've said this before. It's about building a network of people who can help us achieve our goals, supporting us in our journey, and celebrating our success. But you're not celebrating our success if you were not sharing our struggles. So, have you ever struggled to build a relationship that can lead to financial opportunities? Have you ever felt like you've missed out on network chances or struggling to find your tribe? Make sure that you share your experiences in the comments below. And remember to check out the videos that we're going to be having for the rest of the week, because we're going to be continuing to learn how to build a winning investment portfolio from scratch as we continue to walk through all of the other areas of how to make ourselves better individuals, where we will go from being stuck with the low valued individuals that do not favor our positive position, do not favor our positive agendas, and are not interested in a long-term lifetime growth process, and start finding those moderate to high valued individuals that are more tuned to our success, that are more tuned to the ability to aid in our agenda and the willingness to support our agenda and our objectives with actual positive engagement and involvement. Because having someone that just doesn't get in your way but doesn't help you succeed is not as good as someone that helps you succeed. If you got to have a car that's stalled out and you're at the bottom of the hill and the house is at the top of the hill and you got to push the car up the hill, you want a partner that's going to help you push. You don't want a partner that's going to sit in the car and tell you how you're not pushing it hard enough. You don't want a person who's not going to contribute to your success, rub it in that you're failing. You do not want an individual that is not going to aid you in your ability to be financially successful, to be standing there holding their hand out expecting a payment because you just got paid. You want to make sure that you have the kind of people around you that are willing to make sure that you are successful, even if they don't get anything out of it in return. And in return, you're going to give them as much as you possibly can out of the appreciation and gratitude and respect and value that you have in that person for their efforts in aiding you to succeed. With that being said, I'm going to wrap up tonight's show. I really appreciate y'all coming to This and That, where we are live 7 days a week, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 5 Pacific. And as I always tell you guys, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking y'all to make it make sense. So ladies, make it make sense. For the rest of you guys, make sure that you like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter and Twitch. Join the membership. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. Thank you for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Good night.